Welcome to the Running with James podcast. We are committed to helping runners, OCR athletes, and the everyday person get involved, get connected, and get committed to becoming the best versions of themselves. Remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. Now here's your host, James Wyatt.
And welcome back to another episode of Running with James. We hope you caught that Patreon episode that we dropped for y'all. It was very nice.
It was great. But you can only listen to it if you are a
Patreon subscriber.
Member, right? So it's a great day today. Lauren's in the house.
It's dreary out, though.
Have you gotten your award yet?
My award for what?
For being like one of the best drivers in the world?
Don't make me cry again. Do you see how?
Why would you cry?
Don't make me sad again.
Okay.
You're gonna get me heated again.
My name is James, Coach James to many.
I am Lauren, and I am a good driver.
So you remember when we were in your car, and I told you that if you have to tell people how good a driver you are, that's your first sign that you might need some help.
I'm a good driver.
Right? So it's like if somebody's drinking alcohol and they're like, I'm not an alcoholic. I can quit anytime I want.
I
right?
can't.
You're like, I'm a great driver. I can miss running over people anytime I want.
I can dodge that person whenever I want.
That's it.
I don't want to.
That's right. That's right. The car coming toward me, the parked car coming
Look,
toward me.
as far as I'm concerned, I am good at very specific things in the car. I will never hit an animal.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll swerve to my death before I hit an animal.
And that's a mistake.
That's a true statement. Ask Victoria about that one.
I will believe you.
I won't hit an elderly person or a child. A full grown, just an adult. It depends on what they're doing. I might.
Why are these prerequisites of being a good driver? It's like you
And I
blew
don't
somebody's
speed
mind.
in neighborhoods because that's a jerk thing to do.
You just blew somebody's mind right now. You said, I won't hit over old people or kids.
Everyone else, you're in trouble. It depends on what you're doing. If you're acting like a jerk, I'll think about it. And don't act like you have not thought about it.
Oh my gosh.
I've
never once thought about hitting anybody.
You have never signed a point system to people?
No.
Oh, I have.
What is wrong with you? You just said you would not run over an animal.
No, never.
But you have a point system assigned to people.
Not children or old people.
Oh, God.
Because
Old people would make more sense. They've had a good life.
no, but they're older. They're maybe deaf, blind.
So what?
That's a handicap that they're slower.
What you just said is old people are handicapped.
In terms of like they don't have the full vision, maybe they don't hear very well, they're not moving as fast. So like in that way, they're not like they don't have like maybe the capability unless they are a very fit individual, then you could go right back in with the other people. If you're a very fit 80-year-old, you're lumped in with the rest of them. You do better.
You people do understand what I'm dealing with now, right? I feel like the more time we get to spend together and y'all get to hear her talk more,
I will not.
y'all understand what I am dealing with.
I will not speed in a neighborhood because that's a jerk move.
You shouldn't speed anywhere.
Highways are the exception.
There is a speed limit for a reason.
It is a suggestion, especially if you're going down. Especially if you're going down 290 or 45 between like any major city.
You know what I'm going to do?
Unless it's Giddings, Texas. Don't speed through Giddings, Texas. That's a trap.
So what you're saying is as long as you're not getting caught, you should speed.
Within reason.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously Lauren is someone of high integrity and character, moral character. So if you need your kids watched, guys, no, she won't run over them.
Never.
If you need your old people watched, she won't run over them.
They're in good hands.
But if you need your sister watched,
well,
don't let her be in the streets. She's going to get ran over. So I want to welcome you back to the Running with James podcast, where we break down things other than Lauren's driving. We break down training, gear,
break down training,
races, running, everything.
And we break down Lauren.
And I think you do a good enough job of doing that.
I'm breaking down every day, people.
Oh my gosh. And so I want to tell you guys, don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah.
This is the kind of gold you're going to get when you follow with us on this journey that is the Running with James podcast and YouTube.
Welcome.
So I think we should dive into what we're supposed to be talking about today, not the DMV.
How hard it is to be, how hard it is to train when you live life.
It can be hard. Yeah. It can be hard. Actually, I saw a post the other day from an athlete, and it was a woman. You know how y'all are. It was like it's like when people tell you can't do something, you go out and crush high rocks or something. It's like when when people say you don't have time to do this because you're a mother, they're like, oh, you get up in the morning and you do that. Or you're tired or something. So it's basically like, women are superheroes.
It's empowering.
We all know women are superheroes, okay? And men don't have to do any of that stuff. So, but the point was they were very busy.
Yes.
And they found a way.
They found a way.
They found a way to continue to train.
They found a way.
A lot of times people will say, I'd love to do this someday, but I just can't because I just don't have...
I don't have the time.
I don't have the time, right?
Time is the biggest, hurdle I think people are trying to always overcome.
Agree, right? Because time is fleeting and short, and we have very, 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 very busy lives.
Very busy.
And no, I mean, sometimes I feel like some of the stuff we are busy with is replaceable, right? Or things you can manage better.
It's wasted time.
Exactly. But I think, when people who train and they want to get better, they're always like, well, I can't do what the elite runners do. I can't do what the elite people are doing because of the time because they do this for a living and they're full-time athletes.
Yeah.
And a lot of athletes that are, elite or professional athletes, a lot of them have full-time jobs. A lot of them are, maybe they're full-time students. There's one particular OCR athlete that I'm thinking about. She's a lawyer, and she's a professional athlete. And so she doesn't really make a ton of money from her OCR career.
Yeah. We know there's another OCR athlete that's really big, and she's like a dental hygienist.
So a lot of professional athletes, because a lot of these sports, especially the newer ones like OCR and High Rocks, you're not making a ton of money yet. Even in High Rocks, I mean, they have a pretty good prize for the World Championship. You're talking like 50 grand plus, which is a pretty decent amount. And they do get sponsored from people like the Feed,
Amazfit,
right? So, but I mean, I don't know what these contracts look like, but they're not millions of dollars, right? So a lot of them have, until a certain point, they're going to have a job, a day job. And so they're also trying to balance and work through their training so they can be as good as they can be.
Well, I think in something to consider, not even work, but family life. Megan Jacoby, she is a mother. So she also, her daughter goes with her to a lot of her events when they're stateside.
Yep.
We personally know a lot of athletes that are parents and have to consider, their families involved, whether they're single mothers. We know several single mothers that have to very much consider what's going on with their child when they're planning their training.
Sure.
So work is definitely a big factor to consider when you're an elite or a pro athlete. But, if you've got kids, if you're maybe a single mother or a single father, because there's both out there, and you've got to prioritize who's watching the child. Those are things that also have to come into consideration.
Yeah. Well, I think the key is you can train like a pro without the full-time schedule. It is very possible. And so I think, a lot of times I always try to encourage people not to necessarily compare themselves to other people, specific elites or pros or what have you. But I do think it's a good idea to kind of look at some of the things they do, because obviously they work for them. And so a couple things that we can kind of maybe jump into and talk about is, I think a lot of times people think that the elites do more volume and they just run more, right? Or they just train more.
They're literally in the gym 24/7.
Right. And they are doing probably more volume, but I think more than anything, some of the key differences is that they focus on the quality over the quantity. So not every single run is going to be a grind. Not every single run or workout is going to be, a 2-hour session. They also focus on consistency over some random hard effort. So they're consistently working on a particular discipline or distance or what have you. So they're doing periodization training. So there's a plan or a rhyme to the reasoning. They're not just going out and, okay, today I'm going to do a hard workout.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some consistency there. So they also prioritize recovery. Recovery is super important, and that's sleep. You're talking nutrition, you're talking mobility. All of those things are non-negotiables for elites, and I think a lot of that is really what separates the elites from the normal people.
Yeah,
is because the average Joe out there is just adding. They're just stacking workouts.
They're just grinding all the time,
grinding it all the time, and they're not prioritizing recovery and sleep and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Were you about to say something?
I'm gonna tack it in when we get deeper into that.
So I think those are like some main things that I think you just got to work on. And there's ways that you can apply that to your training. And usually it just all starts with coming up with a plan, right? Setting some sort of goal, whatever that is for each of your sessions, whether it's speed, easy miles, whatever. And then creating a plan, and then make those easy days. If you plan in easy days, actually letting them be easy days. Don't let them turn into something different.
Yeah.
So because you don't want to burn out your training and be hard every single day. And then just focus mainly on long-term progression rather than, what you're doing today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, if you do a workout today and then tomorrow you do the same workout and you get better, well, that doesn't mean you're fitter necessarily. It just may mean you're just better at doing that workout.
Yeah.
And so it's more about the long-term progression than it is like the short-term, like immediate results.
Yeah. For sure. No, I think one of the big things for a lot of people is not having the intention, like not setting whatever your intention is, because then when you don't have, like you said, a clear plan, you don't have a focus, you're just going in willy-nilly, and there might not be consistency across the muscle groups you're training, or, if you're training more cardio or more strength or whatever the focus is, and the results will not be the same. They won't. You might not see them as fast.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry.
Thumbs up.
No, I'm sorry. I'm like trying not to like blink like a crazy person. My eyes are hurting really bad. So.
Nobody can see you.
I know. I feel like I'm blinking at you like something's wrong.
Well, I'm not even paying attention to that.
Good.
So and just so you know,
we're cutting this out.
No, we're not cutting this out because I think we need to be very transparent with our audience.
Okay.
And so I think it's important that I let you know I think you're a little crazy. So the fact that you're blinking over here like a nut job doesn't throw me off.
That's alarming. It's really because my eyes feel super dry.
It doesn't throw me off at all.
Cool.
Like watching you over in your little corner. You didn't even notice the other day. Let me give you guys a quick.
Oh, guys, we don't have to segue.
Just real quick.
No segue.
Real quick. The other day, I forgot what was going on, but I was trying to get Lauren's attention, and of course, she had her ear thingies in. Right. There was no music playing, but her music. I was like, "Hey, Lauren. Hey," and I was literally in front of her, like she's above.
I was editing a video.
There's no way she didn't see me. She was ignoring
I was
me.
looking down.
So I happened to have a volleyball in my hand.
You did. It was during your class.
So I threw the volleyball at the wall that was in front of her.
Yeah.
And so it's like a little chalkboard that she's behind. It hit that, didn't phase her at all. I threw it again. I threw it 3 times.
Did you really?
Yes, before you ever even like,
I was editing a video, and when I get like very into a task I'm working on, nothing else registers.
Yeah. So maybe you shouldn't edit those videos while you're driving.
Was I driving? I was at the gym working.
Run over children and old people.
And I was in the gym working.
You'll go against your own standards. So, all right. So, what's the most bang for your buck when you're training, right? So, what are some of the biggest things that you can do? So, if we're going to talk about quality over quantity, what are some of the biggest things that you can do in your training to get the most out of your training? So, you don't have hours to train, so you need to be what?
Intentional.
Right? You got to be intentional, and you want to be as efficient in your training as you possibly can, right? So, a lot of top methods for busy athletes are going to include like quality interval sessions. Okay. So if you think about I like to think that Hyrox is somewhere between a 10K and a half marathon effort, something like that.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're training for a 10K, how do you get the most out of your 10K training? Well, the first place you have to start with is understanding what energy systems are you utilizing in that event. Okay. So a 10K is a very lactate threshold specific event with a little bit of anaerobic thrown in if you're really pushing yourself toward the end.
Yeah.
But it starts, because it is a 6.2 mile race, it starts with endurance.
Yeah.
So you have to have a great foundation of aerobic fitness, and then you need to have a really strong lactate threshold. So if you know that going into it, then you can already understand that, okay, I need to definitely do some sort of lactate threshold training.
Yep.
But then I also need to have a very strong aerobic capacity. And so you can give yourself some balance. And so if you know that going into it, well, we go off of the 80-20 principle. So 80% easy, 20% hard. And so understanding, okay, if I'm limited in my training each week on like different efforts, well, starting with how many efforts do I need to have that are easy compared to my hard efforts? And then that's kind of like where you start building your blueprint for that Monday to Sunday type training system. Yeah. So making sure you get in quality interval sessions. So instead of just racking up a bunch of medium distance miles, right? Or trying to run race pace all the time.
All the time.
Right. Then actually add in one, maybe two, well-structured speed workouts that are progressive.
Yeah.
So don't like today, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to run 5 miles at goal race pace.
Yeah.
Okay. And then next week I'm going to run 3 miles at 5K pace or something like that.
Yeah, and even faster.
Work on progression and periodization.
Yeah.
And so, we do 4-week training blocks. So we would take one workout, and each week we would do a very similar, if not the same workout with a little additional volume.
Yes.
Okay. So a very traditional lactate threshold workout is like doing a tempo run or a threshold
Yes.
run. And so you would run whatever your tempo pace, your threshold pace, for anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And depending on your volume and depending on your experience, it could go as high as 60 minutes.
Yeah, I think you had one for me last month, and it was my race pace, and it started at 15 minutes, and every week we just added 5 minutes.
There you go, yeah.
And I was thinking, I always start, I'm like, okay, I mean, last week was a little tough. Like, I felt it towards the end. Obviously, you always feel it like towards the end when you're pushing, but I felt like doable. So I'm like, 5 minutes won't be that bad. 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, like added, you feel it. Especially when you start getting into those 25 to 30 minute ranges. You really start to feel it.
Right. But that makes it more manageable and more doable instead of me saying, okay, I want you to go out and start with 30 minutes. Yeah. And that's what most people think. Okay, well, if you're going to get me to 30 minutes, I should just start with 30 minutes.
Yeah. Well, it's not even just like physically manageable. It's mentally manageable. Yeah. It's also a huge mental game at that point.
Yeah. So you're building confidence that you can do it and maintain it while also building the lactate threshold capability. So, having one or two efforts that are well structured and well planned out will help. It really helps you see the progression.
Yeah.
And it's very qualitative instead of quantitative.
Yeah.
Well, then the other thing you want to make sure you're doing is getting a couple of good quality strength workouts a week.
Yes.
Okay. And so, we talk about cross training all the time and doing resistance training, lifting heavy weight is going to be important. Mainly because, number one, it's going to help prevent injury. Because running is a very repetitive motion.
Very.
And that repetitive motion over and over and over again, you're utilizing these same muscle groups. And so some of those, support muscle groups are not getting utilized as much. And so that's easy to develop like an imbalance or get some kind of impingement or whatever. And so doing like very specific training that is lifting heavy, it's going to increase bone density. It's going to help create more strength while also providing more support for your running and your training.
Yeah, I think I saw something really interesting the other day, and it's very true, but it's just like when it was said, I was like, oh yeah, when you're running, you're not running with both feet hitting the ground at the same time. Like you're one leg at a time. Right. So it is really important to have that strong muscular system because you need each leg to independently be able to support the motion that you're going through. Yeah. So that your knees don't cave in, so your hip doesn't drop, so your glutes are engaging as you're driving through. So if you're doing all this, you're doing a lot of running and just run focus, but you're not building the strength system as you start increasing the mileage or trying to maybe increase your pace, but you do not have the muscular system to support it. That is when you start to see people get really injured and overtaxed.
Sure. And that's just because of that imbalance that you create, right? And that repetition of the movement. So, making sure that you're doing that strength training will help with that.
Yes.
Now, if you're training for something specifically like High Rocks, which is a very hybrid centric movement or discipline, well, then you need to do some sort of event specific training.
Yeah.
So doing like compromise running where you're running and then doing an exercise, doing an exercise, kind of developing the ability to come off of a fatigued state of a run and be able to do a workout, and vice versa, come off a fatigued state of doing a workout and be able to run. Yeah. And so mixing in some functional strength with running can be like a super game changer for the race. I was talking to a new athlete the other day, and they were talking about like they did High Rocks Houston, and they were like, I've got to get better, and I know I need to work on my running. And so I was like, well, what did you do beforehand? And then they were kind of telling me about some of the workouts that they did at their gym and stuff. And, they would do a little bit of running and then go do a workout, a little bit of running and do a workout. Okay. But their running was like, 200 meters, 100 meters, and then they come in and do like you go, I go. Oh. Right? So it was like, and it was a class. So I can understand why they would do that, probably because of space. Okay, and the amount of equipment they had. Sure. But it was very short things, and there were long breaks.
Yeah.
Okay. So that doesn't really simulate, or it doesn't like mirror what you're going to do in high rocks.
Yeah.
Even if you're a doubles partner, it doesn't simulate that.
No, what that will tend to do is like you might get really comfortable in those workouts. And I think this happens to a lot of people. People will do those types of workouts where it's not a lot of running. It's like running, but it's like you said, 200 meters, which is a very small fraction compared to what you're actually doing.
Yep.
And then you're doing very small station work because you're splitting it or whatever. People get really comfortable in those workouts. They're like, oh yeah, I crushed my workout.
Yep.
And then they get to the race and the reality hits by like station 2 or 3. And it's like, oh, this is like a lot more. Like there's so much more load involved.
And when you add in those long rests too,
Yeah.
you know, and so if you're going to do a workout, there's nothing wrong with doing a workout like that, but you probably should, the intensity of that workout should be much higher.
Yeah,
So in other words,
for
you're
sure.
running faster.
Yes.
You're doing the workouts harder, maybe heavier weights.
Yeah.
And then you take those long breaks.
Yes.
You don't go the same pace, nice and easy, you know, whatever, and then take a long break too, because you're not putting yourself, and you're not training that energy system, right?
Kind of
So
like that workout you had us do Monday, which was
Correct. Where y'all were just like
mansy-pansying around.
whistling Dixie or whatever. And I was like, guys,
It was supposed to.
This is not the workout.
I didn't get the memo that it was supposed to be high intensity, and I got called out.
not just you. This
Not
chick was
just
on the
me.
rower. Like she was just
I
like,
was
in a canoe
I was having a good time.
down the river.
It was like
the
an
weekend.
easy pace.
And I'm like, this is not what I said to do.
No, I very quickly after getting called out took like 30 seconds off my splits. So
I think having the intentionality and the focus instead of just throwing stuff at the dartboard, that helps a lot.
yes,
Right.
100%.
So, you know, cross training smartly. So, you know, maybe you're someone who feels like you get injured a lot if you run too much, you know, mileage. Even if you're running easy mileage, it happens, but you can do cross training where you're doing like cycling or swimming or, you know, maybe rowing
The
or
rower.
skiing or what have you, where you're doing, you know, 20, 30 minute sessions. So you get that aerobic fitness, that same aerobic fitness you might get from running without having the same amount of load bearing on your body, your skeletal system, your muscular system.
Yeah.
So just making sure you're getting that volume of aerobic capacity training or cardio, whatever you want to call it, so that you can make sure your engine is primed for those harder efforts.
I feel like adding the bike into the workouts has been a real game changer.
Yeah.
But like having the intent, like again, setting intention, not just getting on the bike and, you know, going really easy and treating it like a super chill recovery, but like getting on turning up the damper to a little more of a resistance and then giving yourself a goal split that you have to stick to.
Sure.
And like having that intention. I mean, those are tough. The bike is always usually like pretty chill, but like when you get on it with the intention of like keeping a low split, it's tough.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's one of the reasons riding a bike can be pretty challenging if you add the resistance like riding a hill, or the duration of them oftentimes. So, I mean, there's a lot of really good fitness you can get from swimming or biking for sure. So I think that's where you start out, and then structuring your actual week to maximize whatever gains you might want to try to get. Okay. So, you know, the balance of the week is really what's going to make the biggest difference. So like if you were to create like an efficient breakdown of your time. Okay. So, and obviously time is a factor always.
Always.
Okay. And so
We've limited.
you know, if, you know, and obviously priority is making sure you're prioritizing stuff, you know, so for some people they're like, well, if I'm going to do more, I got to get up earlier. Okay. Well, if you get up earlier, you probably should go to bed earlier.
Yes.
Okay. Now, some people are like, well, I can't go to bed earlier. And that's probably not true. You probably can't watch TV and go to bed earlier. You can't do both, right? Or you can't play on your phone and go to bed earlier.
Yeah.
So I think looking at that is going to be, you know, very important. So, but making sure that your week is as balanced as you possibly can. So I would say in a week, making sure you have two key running sessions, and you can start with this. Okay. One, I think, needs to be the long run. So that's really low intensity for an extended period of time. And that's really helping you develop that aerobic capacity, you know, the endurance for your muscles and your tendons and all that good stuff. So really establishing that long effort. And oftentimes it's on the weekend because you have more time usually on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday. But establishing that long effort and ultimately trying to get to a place where it's equal or over whatever the distance you're going to run.
Yes.
So if you're going to do a 10K, running at least 6 to 7 miles, right? If you're going to do a half marathon, running 13 or so miles. If you're doing, like, say, something like high rocks, running up to like 6 miles or so at least, so that you know what it feels like to be able to go that distance.
Yeah.
Right. And keeping it super easy as well.
And just to reiterate, because I do feel like we could touch on this a lot, but I still get people who ask me all the time, when you say low intensity, like we're talking zone 2 heart rate.
I mean,
Well,
if you have a
easy.
heart rate monitor, I would say try to stay in zone 2 if you can, because that's going to be your fat burning zone.
Yeah.
So that means your body's using fat as its main source of energy. So not necessarily carbohydrates and glycogen, which zone 3 would be.
Yeah.
But but zone 3 is okay too, because
Yeah.
that's still aerobic building, and that's fine. So anywhere from zone 3, but if you can discipline yourself and not be worried so much about how fast you're running and stay in zone 2, well, then stay in zone 2.
And if they don't have a heart rate monitor, you have a trick.
Yeah, just the sing test.
The sing.
Right? We used to say the talk test, right?
Yeah.
Conversation pace. But you can have a conversation with someone because I talk, you talk. I talk, you talk.
Yeah.
And you're breathing heavier than maybe you should.
Yeah.
And, you're taking breaks. But you can be in your lactate threshold and still talk.
Technically, yes.
Okay, so...
But can you sing?
But the key is you cannot... I guarantee you can't sing.
Yeah.
If you can sing, that means you're getting enough oxygen to be able to get that
Sound out.
note out. So I say the sing test rather than the talk test. But you should also be able to feel that.
Yeah.
You should know if you're breathing heavy, and don't lie to yourself.
No, I mean, it doesn't do you any good. I have so many friends who will call me and they're like, I just, my pace feels so slow. And I'm like, but my heart rate is so high. I'm like, well, go slower.
Yeah.
Just go slower. Who do you care?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I have no problem. I have other people who like, oh, I'll tell them I'll run with them. Like, oh, well, I go really slow. I'm like, I don't care. It's my chill day. I'll go above a walking pace if I have to.
Yeah. So I think that you kind of got to get over that and yourself with those types of things and understand that pace only matters on your speed days and your race day. Other than that, keep it chill. Right.
Yep.
So I think having two specific sessions that you make sure you get in. So a long run and then some sort of speed or interval or a compromised run effort into your sessions.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing I would say you want to make sure you do is get 1 to 2 strength training sessions in.
Yep.
Okay. So lifting weights, whether it's you're doing a heavy short session or you're doing something more like more volume, but getting in strength sessions that you focus on compound movements.
Yep.
So not doing curls, not doing bench press. We're not talking about doing 5 sets of 6 reps or, not
More like a thruster where we're adding the squat with a press.
Snatches, cleans, lunges, snatching lunges, push-ups, pull-ups.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't do curls, but really focus more on like compound movements because they're going to give you the most bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Right. And do that 1 to 2 times. That's not every day.
Yeah.
1 to 2 times a week.
Yeah.
And then having 1 to 2 easy recovery runs.
1 to 2 easy recovery runs.
Okay. So that means, and I would probably say closer to 2 or 3 if you have the bandwidth for it, based on the volume you've been at.
Okay, yeah. So we're saying do 4 runs a week, preferably.
Basically.
4 to 5.
4 to 5 runs a week minimum. Okay. And 3 to 4 of those are easy.
Easy.
One of them being a long run, the rest being recovery efforts.
Yes.
And then one that is
your more challenging speed work.
Right. It could be a threshold. It could be an interval, a long interval. If you're training for something like High Rocks, I'm not saying you shouldn't run 400 meters or 600 meters or 200 meters, but unless you're doing a progression to get up because you're maybe training that way, you need to be doing longer interval sets, 800 meters and above.
And again, if you're just getting started, that doesn't mean you're starting at immediately 20 miles a week. You're starting maybe at like 10 or 12 miles a week, maybe working up to 15. Yeah. So guess what? If you're just getting started and you're in the I don't have time, we're giving you suggestions that take even less time. It does not take a ton of time to go out and run a mile and a half, even if you're like just above walking pace.
Those 4 efforts every week could simply be running a mile.
Yeah.
Right? You could go for 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And that long effort could be 2 miles or 3 miles, right? It could be a 40-minute session, right? So we're talking about progression, but like if you're trying to put together a good overall concept for like say High Rocks training or for 10K or half marathon, these are the kind of efforts to maximize your overall training load.
Yes.
Right? And then have at least one real recovery day where you're working on like mobility, flexibility, light movement where, it's active recovery.
Yeah.
And that could be a day where you cycle. It could be a day where you do yoga. It could be a day where
walk with intention.
You just go for a walk or a swim or something like that. And so it's a very pre-programmed into your schedule recovery mobility day.
Yes.
And it allows your body to recover, rest, so that the next week you can go again. And so having these things, and so what we're talking about right now basically is we're talking anywhere from 5 to 7 efforts a week.
Yeah.
And none of those efforts have to be an hour long or
No.
more. They could all be shorter.
No, we like the workout we had today. Like I was in zone 4 and it was a less than 30-minute workout. And it was all because it was intention. I was moving through everything as fast as possible. And, the weight was challenging.
So I'm talking 4 to 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
Okay. Of training spread out over maybe 5 to 7 days.
Yep.
So if you think about that, 5 hours of training, that's 45 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Right?
You're probably spending that much time. Like
I
you're probably,
guarantee
you can dig it somewhere.
You probably
usually.
waste that much time on your phone a day.
Probably.
Easily. Okay.
Easy.
So, it's definitely a possibility, but it only happens if you are intentional about it and you create a plan, right? So the other thing is really balancing what I mentioned earlier is that 80-20 principle. So balancing intensity and recovery the way the pros would do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, a lot of people will tell you don't train like the pros. I don't tell people that. I think we should train like the pros, but at the level we're at. So maybe we're not doing the volume they're doing. Maybe we're not doing the intensity they're doing, but we're using some of what they do as a blueprint to allow us to improve to get where we want to go.
Use the system to inspire what you're doing.
And so, like I said, it just goes back to understanding what quality over quantity is
For
all
sure.
about. And so the 80-20 principle is like the bedrock. Honestly, I think the 80-20 principle is the bedrock for training, because the 80% low intensity training and the 20% high intensity training basically puts you in the two ends of the spectrum. So you're training very, very, very easy so that you're not beat up and tired all the time. And then you're on the other side where it's very, very, very hard, where you're developing your lactate threshold, your anaerobic capacity, and your ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And what you're doing is you're staying out of that middle area, the gray area, which to me I think is like the dead man zone. And so why does this work? Well, number one, it avoids like you burning out. I was talking to a couple of my new clients, and it was like their first training block, and they're sending me the runs, and they're doing a great job running in their, where they're supposed to be. And I was like, how are you feeling? And they're like, you know what? I feel really good. It's like, I haven't felt like this I can't tell you last time I felt like that. Like, I'm going on my runs. I'm enjoying my runs. It's nice doing them easy. And I was like, that's what running should be.
Yeah.
That's what running. If you tell me you do not enjoy running, I know you're running too hard.
Yeah.
I know it without a shadow of a doubt, because I used to be like that. I used to hate running. I did not like it. Now I love it. Now I enjoy running. I'll maybe not say love it, but now I enjoy running, and I have no problem going out and doing it.
Yeah.
And when I don't do it, I feel like I missed something.
Yeah.
And so it avoids your burnout, and it maximizes your gains because you're really developing that foundation. And we've said it so many times, but the bigger the foundation, the higher the peak.
Yep.
It also keeps your aerobic endurance strong without feeling constantly fatigued.
Yep.
Okay. There's nothing worse than feeling like beat up all the time.
It's really hard.
Right. It's emotionally and physically and mentally draining.
It really is.
To feel like, because here's what ends up happening. You're like, oh, I'm getting old.
No, yeah, that's exactly what it is. You start wondering, is this age? And then you start maybe getting a little depressed. You start like kind of questioning a lot of what you're doing, and it's really easy to slip.
And then you see other people doing better, and you're automatically thinking, oh, well, it's because they're young.
Exactly.
Okay. Or they're just built different.
Yep.
So it really kind of helps you, I think, alleviate some of that mental fatigue, because you're not constantly tired all the time. And so that leads to helping you not be injured, because it allows for proper recovery. And so it's really simple to implement it. Basically, here's how it works. You keep the easy runs easy. Mm-hmm. You don't change them. You don't, I feel good today, so I'm going for it. You keep it easy.
Don't just because you're feeling good and then make that easy run feel real good.
Yeah, no, it's still going to feel good, just because even though you run slower and you're done with it, you're not going to feel any worse. You'll feel even better if you keep it easy. And then if the day is supposed to be hard, you make it hard.
Yeah.
Just because you don't feel like going hard, you don't not go hard.
Yeah.
And so you hear people all the time talk about, you got to listen to your body, right? I think we've even said it before.
We have.
And you do need to listen to your body, but you don't let your emotions and your body and necessarily how you feel dictate what you're going to do today.
Yeah.
Right. So what I usually say is, you're not a slave to anything. We're not a slave to pace, heart rate, or how we feel. Mm-hmm. And we use all of those as a metric to kind of help us guide us through our training plan.
Yeah.
So some days I don't feel like working out. Some days I don't feel like training. And usually the days that I have programmed hard workouts in, those are usually the days I don't feel like going hard.
Yeah.
And the days where I have nice and easy runs programmed in, those are usually not the days I'll feel like going easy.
Yeah.
But the plan is made that way for a reason.
Yeah.
And so sticking to it, you'll never know if a plan works
If you don't at least stick to it, give it a shot.
to it and give it a shot, right? So keep the easy days easy, the hard days hard.
Yep.
And then understand that real recovery is training. Right?
Yeah.
Prioritize sleep, prioritize hydration, and prioritize nutrition.
Yeah, just because you don't wake up every single day feeling super, super sore, it does not mean you're failing.
Correct.
It does not mean that you're not getting gains. It means that you are being intentional and you're going to see the gains over longer periods of time. You're also going to not be injured.
Right. So, I mean, you should feel sore every now and again.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that is to an extent a sign of progression. You know, you're breaking your body down, but it shouldn't be all the time.
No, it should not be all the time.
And hopefully you should feel good more than you feel beat up.
Yes.
Okay. Now, after long training blocks, really hard training sessions and stuff, eventually fatigue will continue to climb as volume increases, but that's why we taper. That's why we set in those recovery every 3 or 4 weeks, so that you have an ability to kind of let your fatigue fall so that you can be ready for the next bump in whatever the increase is going to be.
Yeah.
Right. So, when we talk about recovery as well, it's everywhere. There's all these different ideas and philosophies about, recovery, from, taking an ice bath every single day to, heat exposure every single day to, the red light therapy. What else? Stem cells and, testosterone, not testosterone,
Testosterone.
but for guys. Yeah.
Oh, for guys. Yeah. Okay.
HGH or steroids.
Yeah.
There's all these different things that people like swear by. She legit. I just like saying that word.
Okay.
I don't know why. So
You get really excited when you say it.
I know. What are the different mushrooms?
Oh, ashwagandha?
Ashwagandha. That's what I was.
That's another one you get excited to say.
Yeah.
Ashwagandha.
So, but here's what it comes down to. Sleep is probably the best thing that you can do to recover.
Yes.
Eating nutrient-dense foods,
Yes.
making sure you get enough protein, and trying to eat as much natural food, real food, as you possibly can, and drinking water.
Drink water.
Those 3 things right there will probably do more than any amount of ice bathing you can do.
Yeah.
And what cracks me up is, for every Instagram person that talks about you should be taking an ice bath every other day, there's a YouTuber saying you shouldn't ice bath because it's going to take all your gains away. So all of that stuff, it's faddish to an extent. And yes, there's benefits to it, but none of that, ice bath, what do you call the cryo chambers, the laser therapy, all of that stuff is just like, it's more faddish than it is guaranteed results.
Yeah.
For some people, they feel amazing. For other people, they don't feel anything.
Yeah. Again, I agree. I would say there is a lot more of like just very fancy marketing behind them. I do think there is definitely some benefit to each one on some level, but they are not a magic fix all.
Right.
They are not going to set you up for recovery success the way that James mentioned food, water, and sleep are going to do. Like really at your body's core. We're talking things like that are going to work on the system from the deep inside.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the challenge is, and so this is kind of exactly what we're talking about now. So the difference between the average athlete who's out there running the local 5K, 10K, marathon, half marathon, the weekend warrior doing high rocks or OCR, the difference between that person and the pro is this. The pro has realized and has become tried and true in their consistency and the things that they do. They prioritize sleep, nutrition, hydration, and recovery. Okay, they may try some of these other things, right? They may take an ice bath every now and again. They may go do some hot therapy. They may, they may have access to, the boots that have the compression, right? And they probably have a gun,
the Normatex and all that, yeah.
But the thing they focus on, that's just like the extra stuff. Whereas like the average person does the opposite.
They focus on all the additives.
They focus on all the
fluff,
the miracle fluffy stuff, right? They got every tool in the book.
Yep.
They got a freaking $5,000 ice tub.
Yep.
they're paying a $300 membership a month to go to some gym that's got a sauna and a pool, that they don't use. They might use the sauna, maybe not the pool.
Yeah.
Which the pool will probably be doing more good. So they're doing all the stuff that all these people with abs are telling them is going to make you amazing. Mm-hmm. That's the difference between the pro and the regular Joe. Mm-hmm. And when the regular Joe starts doing the stuff that has been proven for over 100 years to work and focus on that, that's when you start seeing amazing differences in how they perform. So I would just encourage you guys that understand you're an athlete. If you're running, if you're working out, if you're exercising, you're an athlete.
Yep.
And if you think of yourself like that, well, you should probably treat yourself like that, right? And so you don't need to be a pro to train like a pro. You just simply got to focus on consistency, your efficiency, and work smarter, not necessarily harder.
Have intention.
I think people are amazed sometimes. I was having a conversation with someone about a month ago, and they were just talking about like they weren't getting the results they wanted. And I was like, you're doing too much.
Yeah.
You're trying to do too much, and you've got to step off the gas a little bit.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, but you're doing this. And I'm like, I don't know what you're smoking and what like gym you're at. I'm like, they've never seen me train before. No. They see me on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's the only time they see me.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I know you're doing this and I know you're doing that. And I was like, you want to know what my training week is? And so I started going down the list of the training week. And they're like, I know you're doing strength training more than that.
He's really not, guys. Like, I'm in the gym with him like 4 days a week. He's really not.
I'm not. I do strength training. I do a light strength training effort on Monday.
Yep, you do.
Right now, instead of Thursday, I'm doing Tuesday. I do my Hyrox workout.
That's a hard workout for you.
That's a hard workout. I run on Tuesday as well, later in the evening. Wednesday is a recovery day.
Chill day for you.
I ride the bike a bunch.
He doesn't do the workout with us. He just yells at us.
I'll run. I usually run and ride the bike. I might do some stretches and mobility stuff because on Thursday, I would do either speed work or I do my Hyrox workout. Right?
Yeah.
So now I'm doing my speed work on Thursdays. So that's a hard session.
Yeah.
That's a tough session, but it's circled around like training my lactate threshold and speed. Fridays, super chill. I do like a 30-40 minute stretch session in the middle of the day. I do a little OCR at night, so I'm running a little bit. A
little bit of strength.
I'm doing body weight strength stuff for the most part, but I keep it
pretty
super chill.
Right? Pretty chill.
My heart rate never gets up. I'm keeping it low. I'm definitely doing strength movements, but it's not a ton.
No,
and it takes less than 30 minutes.
Yep.
Usually it's about 25 minutes.
Yep.
Saturday I do my long run.
Yep.
And then Sunday we have the track. Right.
Yep.
And that's a hard workout.
That's a hard effort.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the way my week looks.
Yeah, it's really...
So it's not nearly as crazy as people are thinking it is. Now, as I'm ramping up and my volume increases, I might add a heavy strength day in there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I might add a little more run volume in there somewhere. But that's it. I'm not going to be doing 3 days a day. My bandwidth is not there.
Yeah.
I don't have the time to do more than that. So I'm trying to do everything I can to optimize the stuff that I am doing. Now, is that how Tia Claire Toomey trains? I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, I don't think so. I know she's more traditionally a CrossFit athlete, and so she's switching over to Hyrox.
Yep.
So I know for a fact the way she trains is different. So Hyrox athletes oftentimes will do 2 or 3 workouts in a day.
Yeah.
But what people don't understand is that they're like little 10-minute workouts.
Yeah.
They're like little AMRAPs or they're little like chippers or whatever. So these little bitty short workouts. So doing a workout that takes like 30 minutes or 40 minutes is not in their wheelhouse. So if you look at all the volume they're doing in one day, it's probably about as much work as you're doing over the course of one day. So, understanding that and realizing that it's the quality, not the quantity, that really makes the biggest dividends.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some sort of guidance, and I hope it's encouraging to know that you can do it.
Yeah.
It can be done. You just got to be deliberate and you have to be consistent.
Yeah. Create a schedule, stick to the schedule. If you don't create a schedule, it's way too easy to say, oh, I'll just do it another time. And it never happens because then you're piling it all into a day or you're just letting it go and for another week. And then you're a week behind and you feel like bleh.
Exactly. Right.
So,
you don't want to be feeling bleh.
Well, no one wants to feel bleh. We all want to feel great. So you just got to schedule it. You got to make that schedule and you got to stick to it and trust.
You got to do what?
Create a schedule and stick to it.
You got to do what?
Create a schedule and stick to it.
That's it. So it doesn't make sense to create one
and not stick to it.
Because you won't know if you're getting.
You'll never really know. Like James said, if you don't give it a fair shot and really make yourself stick to something, you'll never know if it's actually going to work for you or not.
I would go a little bit further too. I'm going to add one more to this. And this is just as a coach. Okay. You've got to commit to a plan. One plan.
One plan.
Not three.
We've talked about this before,
Okay?
yes.
So I know a lot of people, they're so, and this is what I love this about some of the people, is that they're so determined to get to a certain place, right? They're so like, I'm going to get here. This is what my time's going to be. They have these huge goals. Which
and that's
I
great.
love.
It's awesome.
You need to have big goals. But they're pulling stuff from over here. They're pulling stuff from over here. They're talking to this. They've got 3 different coaches.
Yeah.
And you cannot have 3 different voices, 4 different voices. You can't really even have 2 different voices speaking into your life, contrary or contradictory information, and expect you're going to get the best out of everything.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, what's going to happen is you're basically sabotaging yourself.
Yeah.
So I don't care who you go with, but go with someone, listen to them and give them a chance.
Yeah.
And follow their training.
Yeah.
And because honestly, this is what you do. You give that coach a disservice because what they're trying to do may not be what the other coach is trying to do.
Yeah.
And what the other coach may have a completely different philosophy and idea, and those 2 things may clash.
Well, and you're as far as doing a disservice, you're also basically saying, well, I don't fully trust what you're telling me to do, so I need to have a second person also telling me what to do. Just in case it backfires. But I mean, that's how you end up doing twice the amount of labor on your body.
Right.
Because you've got 2 different plans coming at you, and you're now trying to literally put 2 different plans into the same time frame.
Right.
And that is exhausting. That sounds emotionally and mentally exhausting, not just physically.
You're also going to wear yourself out.
Yeah.
So I've had some people over the years where like they would come into me and we were supposed to be the hard workout, and you could tell they were just gassed and they weren't giving me what I knew they were capable of doing. And I know why. Because they
did a workout the previous day
with another coach
that was super hard.
That was like really hard. And I don't know if it had anything to do with High Rocks or not, or if it had anything to do with the 10K or whatever event they were training for, OCR or what have you. But I do know they were busted up.
Yeah.
And so when they came to me, we weren't able to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so it was always like they felt demoralized. They felt beat up, right? And so I believe every day has to have a rhyme and a reason to it. And each day should set you up for the next day.
Yes.
So today's workout sets you up for tomorrow's workout.
Yes.
And so on and so forth. So if you don't go into it with that type of deliberate action, then when you come out on the other side, you probably are going to be beat up. You are probably going to get injured. And honestly, what's going to end up happening is you're going to get to race day and you're not going to get any better.
No.
And you're going to be demoralized because you're like, I'm doing all this work and I'm not getting the results.
Yeah.
So it's just like people who try to like lose weight by not eating at all.
Yeah.
Or it's people who are like, I eat healthy, but I'm still gaining weight. But their concept of what healthy is not real.
I think honestly, sometimes when I think about like some of the athletes we have seen who they are doing that, they maybe have multiple coaches or they're putting so much work into like the training in terms of like loading, just heavy loading all the time because they think that's what's going to get them there. And then they get to race day and they either maybe don't get the PR they want, or it's like way less than they could do, or they don't get the PR at all. They go backwards the other way and they just feel beat up. And I often think a lot of these people, you're making it so much harder than it needs to be. It actually can be pretty easy. This can actually be pretty simple if you just really break it down and really start to simplify what you're doing. And once again, intention, have a designated plan, either you create or you have designated by preferably one coach.
Yep.
And don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
There's no reason it has to be. Life is complicated enough. Don't make it more so by adding more things to it. That's also a message to myself as I'm saying it.
No, for sure. So I just, that recovery portion of it as well. So remember, the fatigue increases as volume increases. And so if you get to race day,
you don't want to be tired going into the race day.
You've had a day off, right? I saw someone that they did a High Rocks simulation the week of High Rocks race.
I know 3 people that did those, and I was like, why? What's it going to do?
I'm like, what was the point of that?
What's it going to do for you?
Let's say you go and do it and you're at 58 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't have a ruck zone.
Nope.
You didn't have a bunch of people in your way.
Nope.
You're probably not the exact same distance.
Nope.
You're not probably the same surface for the pushes and all the other stuff.
It's such a different environment.
Everything is so much different.
Yeah.
So then now you're going into it and you're expecting that you're going to run a 58 or 57 and you end up running an hour and 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And now you're like demoralized because you're like, why was I so slow?
Yeah.
So you basically just shot yourself in the, plus you are exhausted.
Yeah.
Because you did this super hard effort.
It is a hard effort.
Right before your big race.
Yeah, those are simulation. If you do a full sim, that's a hard effort. A Hyrox effort is not an easy effort. Like, I was tired for a week.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's somewhere between a 10K and a half marathon. And for a lot of people, it's closer to a half marathon. And, you know, I would usually tell somebody, if you're doing a half marathon, the week after that half, run if you want to, don't run if you don't. And then we start a reverse taper because it's going to take you a good 2 to 4 weeks to truly recover from that.
Yep.
If you gave your best.
If you gave your best.
If you're out there running easy, maybe not. But if you're out there running for a PR and you're giving your all,
it's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt, and you're going to be tired, and you're going to be sore, and you're going to be beat up because it's a very hard effort for an extended period of time.
Yep.
Hyrox is the same way.
Yes.
So understanding that, well, you need to be recovered before you go to it so you set yourself up for success. And that's the same thing applies. And so you practice that during your training.
Do it.
You practice that during your training. I know I've got a hard effort on Thursday. That means on Wednesday, I'm taking it easy. I'm going chill. I'm letting my body rest a little bit so I can give my all in that Thursday workout. I know that on Tuesday, I'm going to go hard and I'm going to have a hard workout. So that means on Monday, I'm going to set myself up for success because I want to make sure I can hit the workout.
Yes.
I don't care if I can hit the workout today that has nothing to do with tomorrow's workout.
Nope.
And I fail tomorrow because that's the workout that's, you know, specific to whatever my goal is.
Yeah.
So understanding that and making those workouts very quality based rather than just trying to like put a ton of stuff together and just pray and hope that something pays off.
Yeah. It does not matter if you're 2-3 mile easy mileage. It does not matter if it takes you 30 to 40 minutes.
Right.
Who cares?
Yeah.
As long as your speed effort, you're hitting your paces. And if you're doing like a track workout, as long as you're hitting the paces and hitting the workout in good time, who cares if it takes you a 12-minute mile?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It's nobody's business.
No, I mean, some people may look, but it doesn't matter, right? I mean, Strava creeping is real, right? People creep on me on Strava all the time, but
I never look at people's Strava.
I don't care. I don't look at the paces. I don't look at what you're running on Strava. I might give you a thumbs up, but I'm not checking to see. Jessica looks at my paces when I run on Strava.
She does.
She always does that.
She wants to know.
She wants to know because she wants to make sure she is
a little bit ahead,
better than me. But I don't do that. Because I don't care because I'm only competing with myself.
Yep.
And only competing with other people when we're on the track. When they can visually see me.
When they can watch you smoke them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And if they beat me, it's because I'm old and fatigued.
It's only then because I'm old.
Tired. That's all it is. It's a bad day for me, right? So
remember, he's 46 now, guys. Remember.
Yeah, remember.
It's coming for him. Death is nigh.
Death is at its door. Yep. So, but I think that's the key: is think quality, think recovery. And think efficiency. And if you can do that, there's no telling what you're going to be capable of doing.
100%.
Right. So, all right, guys, I hope that was helpful. Guys, hope you got something out of it. If you did, please make sure you share this episode with your friends, your family, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, everybody. And then check us out on YouTube as well. You can hear the podcast on YouTube. We also have videos like reviews and training tips, all that good stuff. Check us out, Running with James. Follow it, like it, subscribe it, share it. It does huge things for us. Also, check us out on our Patreon. We mentioned earlier, we do special episodes. We do some funny stuff, some fun stuff, more additional training topics and stuff. And you can get that extra access just by becoming a Patreon member at patreon.com/runningwithjames. And we've got several different levels that you can join. Plus, you get some perks. You get some patches and discount codes off of gear, stuff like that. So, and you can check out our gear site now. You can go to the mybcfit.com website, and right there on the front page, you'll say, check out the gear. Some really cool stuff, hoodies, t-shirts, shorts, Hyrox Run Club gear.
Heck yeah.
So some really cool stuff that you can get. And it's like really nice stuff too.
Guaranteed to make you, to take 30 seconds off your split.
Easily.
At least 30 seconds.
Easily. And you're going to look better doing it.
You're going to look so good. Even if you're going slower, you're going to look fast.
So hot. So, but some really cool things that are on there on that site. So just go to mybcfit.com and click that merch button.
Whoop.
Did you look like you wanted to say something? Did you have something you
No, I
wanted to add?
didn't. Oh, I mean, it's something I'm going to tell you, but it's after. It's not podcast news.
Oh,
I mean, it is, but it's not something I have to say on here.
Gotcha. So, all right, guys. So this episode as well was brought to you by the BC High Rocks Run Club.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
We have officially launched that. That was our announcement that we had at the last track day. And so when you say BC High Rocks Run Club, I thought that was already happening on Sundays.
Well, now it's official.
No, well, now it's official because it's not just happening on Sundays. We're doing a long run on Saturdays.
And Tuesdays.
We're doing a run on Tuesdays at Memorial Park. Anyone and everyone is welcome to come. It's free to come and run with us. We're also offering a run plan.
0 to High Rocks.
From 0 to High Rocks. And you can simply just join the High Rocks Run community on our app for $30. And you will get 3 months of a run plan to take you and teach you how to be a better runner.
Absolutely.
And get ready for High Rocks. And we'll have different levels too as we kind of progress through the race season. You can just go to mybcfit.com to go on there and click to figure out how to do that. And if you have any questions, y'all always email us, call us, all that good stuff.
And go get the sweet merch so you can be repping
High
Rocks Run Club, the BC High Rocks Run Club.
So join us this Saturday. We're going to be meeting at the YMCA on 249 at 7 a.m. for a nice little long run. We'll be nice and easy. We'll kind of give some more information on what that looks like. So there'll be definitely coaching and training tips going on.
100%.
Because I myself and several of our BC coaches will be there to help you guys along this journey. So
we're excited, guys.
We're excited about it. We want you to come join us. Remember, when you change your mind,
you change your life.
Peace.
Bye. Dang it, I did it again.